Greetings, I am Herbert Herberderp, and today I'm going to build this Flames of War Katyusha Guards rocket battery. This is the 15mm or 1/100th scale plastic kit from Battlefront. When I heard this was being released in plastic, I just knew I had to get some for my army. I'd been hesitant to get the resin and metal version because I'm not a big fan of resin. That said, I have been looking forward to building these for a while, and they've been sitting on my shelf saying, "Build us, Herbert, build us!" And now seems like the time. I'm sure you've had a good look at the front of the box while I've waffled. Let's look at the back. It shows us an image of the painted model, and exploded diagrams that serve as instructions. There are no instructions included inside the box, but you can find a more detailed assembly guide on flamesofwar.com. I'll put a link in the description if you're lazy and don't want to search for it, or better yet, you could just watch this video. It also lets us know that we get 4 plastic Katyusha rocket battery vehicles and 2 unit cards. Here's what the unit cards look like. Very unit cardy. These contain handy information for when you're playing games of Flames of War. Makes sense. And here is what the sprues look like. Each truck comes on a single sprue, so anybody with a basic understanding of mathematics will realise there are 4 sprues in the box. Even I can work that out. I think they look pretty good. They're fairly neat and tidy. There are of course mould lines, but they're not too bad, and the kit seems to have been designed in such a way that the mould lines are largely on areas that won't be visible, though depending on how much you want to be mould line free, you may have a bad time with the rockets. If you're wondering, these sprues are the same as the ones you'll find in the Kutuzov's Heroes box set, assuming I'm saying that correctly, and assuming they still make that box set if you're watching this in the future. Unfortunately, the kit doesn't come with any decals. For me, that's not so bad. I do have plenty of appropriate red stars in my decal drawer, and that does seem to be all the model is marked with. It would have been nice if they were included though. Anyway, the plastic looks good and it seems like this will be a quick and easy build. Speaking of build, I built this live on stream. There's a link to my Twitch channel in the description. I decided to begin by assembling the rockets. This is pretty easy, though it did involve quite a bit of mould line removal from between the rockets. It wasn't so much that the mould lines were bad, just that there was a lot of them. Still, I do like that they are separate parts from the rails. I imagine it would be much harder to clean up if the rockets and rails were one single part. The rockets go onto the railings quite easily, and there is keying, which obviously helps, though I did find it a little bit hard to get them located at first, but I might just be incompetent. What matters is I got there in the end, and the assembly does look pretty decent. Now to build the truck part. The base of the truck has wheels and mudguards moulded on. I was a little bit surprised by this, but it seems pretty good. There's still plenty of detail on the wheels, and I do believe maintaining detail is usually the reason for doing this kind of thing in multiple parts. Seems there was no need for that here. All it needed was a bit of cleanup, and it's ready to go. Before we can go anywhere though, we need to assemble the cab. This is pretty simple. It's a large single piece onto which we just have to add a couple of things, like the radiator grille. This has a slot in the back that allows it to line up nice and neatly with the front of the cab part. It fits quite well. There is a bit of a gap around it where it joins the hood, but I think that should probably be there. Then comes the blast shield. This is easy to put into place, guided by the little tabs at both sides and in the centre. It's kind of a shame there's no front window detail here. It might be nice to be able to model this with the shield up. That is assuming that the shield could even be lifted up. It looks like it probably could, otherwise how do they see where they're driving? Do they just guess? Maybe? Either way, the cab looks decent enough, and now it's ready to be glued down onto the truck frame. I apply glue to the spots I think will be in contact with each other, and then I add some pressure. The part doesn't seem to want to sit all the way down on the frame unless you apply pressure, and even then there is a small gap, but I think that's fine. Then comes this cross thing. I don't know what you would call it, but this is what controls the elevation and depression of the rocket rack. Rack. This part has notches in the bottom, one of which is slightly larger than the other. This should help you put it on the right way around. When it's mounted on the truck, it should have a very slight forward lean. If it leans backwards, you've done it wrong. Now comes the slightly fiddly bit, adding the rocket launcher frame parts. I mean, They weren't super fiddly or anything like that, but the forward pin is a bit small and doesn't seem to want to hold the frame part unless you make it. You also have to make sure these parts are nice and vertical yourself. That's not too hard, and I guess because this is plastic it will flex a bit to allow the rails to fit even if the frames aren't perfectly vertical. Now, instead of installing the rockets, I attach this thing with the supporty leggy bits. I obviously don't know what you would call this. What matters is the part is easy to install at the back of the frame here, like so. Very good. I believe this is intended to give the Katyusha some stability when firing. I then tried to attach the rocket rack. This is the first and, I guess, only problem I had with this kit. The side frames don't fit between the rails, or rather the rockets. I could probably force them together, but I would just as likely break parts off, and that isn't what I want at all. So I took my knife and sliced away bits of the lower set of rockets until the entire rack went into place. I didn't film that because I'm a bad, but I did eventually get there. I'm sure it was riveting viewing for everybody watching on stream. Then I glued the rocket rack into place. Seemed like the thing to do. From what I could tell, it looks like the lip on the rails should be on the top of the rack, the way I've got it installed, but you could put it either way up. The rack ended up fitting quite nicely after my modifications to the rockets. The result does seem like it's pretty solid, and seems like it should be able to endure quite a bit of handling. Looks good too. And that's the Battlefront plastic Katyusha rocket launcher in 15mm scale completed. I'm really quite happy with this. I think the Katyusha is an interesting looking piece of equipment, and I like it when it's mounted on this style of truck, so it gets a big hearty thumbs up from me. I'm not sure if this is super effective in games of Flames of War, but I use the rule of cool, and this is certainly cool. And it probably does cause the enemy infantry to feel bad. I'm hoping this will end up being a valuable part of my Soviet force. When Barnaby and I get around to playing Flames of War, his Germans aren't going to know what hit them. Well, they'll know, but hopefully they'll be too dead to do anything about it. The detail on this is pretty good. Obviously it's not a display model, it's a gaming piece in a small scale, so there are going to be compromises in detail to make it easy to mold and build, while still being strong enough to handle like a gaming piece. I shouldn't really need to say that, but there's usually somebody who whines about the details compared to 1/35th scale and so forth. As far as gaming models go, this one is nicely detailed, at least in my opinion. Maybe a little bit on the chunky side, but that fits with all of Battlefront's other stuff, so I don't really see a problem with that. This Katyusha was pretty quick and easy to build. There was a fair bit of cleanup involved in putting it together, but I wouldn't say it was excessive in any way, and still less than a lot of other kits I've built in this scale. The worst was cleaning up the rockets, and that wasn't too bad really. More importantly, it was fun to build. I built this on stream a few weeks ago. If you didn't see that, and you would like to watch me build models live on stream, I do that on Sunday mornings, usually starting around 8 AM local time. If you want to watch, there's a link to my Twitch channel in the description. Head on over and give me a follow. That way, Twitch will alert you when I go online. There's also a schedule on the page that will convert my stream times to your local time. How convenient. It would be great to see you there. Last week I gave away a Zvezda King Tiger. Good times. Anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic here. What do you think of this Katyusha? Have you built this kit before? Or some other manufacturer's Katyusha? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, follow, ring the bell, and all the other things you do on YouTube and social media. Links to all of the things including my Patreon and my Twitch channel are in the description below. And as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other and thanks for watching. Farewell.